There are so many planets out there that could crash into Earth. If any of them did, we would all be screwed. But some planets are more dangerous than others. So which one would be the most dangerous for us? Okay, let's start off with a planet that is very similar to Earth. It may not look like much in this picture, but it's right here. This is planet Gliese 1002b. Gliese 1002b orbits a red dwarf star, Gliese 1002. And unlike Earth, Gliese 1002b has a mass that is twice as big as our planet's. This planet is only 16 light-years away from us, and since it is so close by, astronomers can get an accurate view of its atmosphere. In 2020, astronomers discovered that this planet has a large ocean, but they also found that it has a really thick hydrogen atmosphere. This could be an issue if the planet were to collide with Earth, because when these two planets smash together, the atmosphere of Gliese 1002b would engulf our planet. The atmosphere of Gliese 1002b is mostly hydrogen and helium. Now, that's just what we see in the Sun, isn't it? Well, yes. It turns out that the Sun is also made up of those two elements, and a layer of hydrogen surrounds our planet. That's our ozone layer. So the hydrogen in the atmosphere of Gliese 1002b could do a number on our ozone layer, destroying it completely. Our ozone layer protects us from the UV radiation of the Sun. Without it, everyone on Earth would get skin cancer. So in that sense, Gliese 1002b would be a death sentence for us. But let's say that the atmosphere didn't mix with ours. What if the hydrogen on Gliese 1002b just sat on top of our atmosphere? Well, then it would be a whole other set of problems. You see, our atmosphere is held in place by gravity. And since Gliese 1002b is twice as massive as Earth, its gravity would be stronger than ours. So the atmosphere of Gliese 1002b would just fall on top of our planet and smother us. It would be game over for all of us. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, if Gliese 1002b has such a powerful gravity, wouldn't that make it easier for Earth to smash into it? I mean, the gravitational force between these two planets would be pretty strong. Well, yes, but here's the thing. For Earth to be captured by Gliese 1002b's gravity, it would have to come within a certain distance of the planet before it passes by. If it comes too close, it'll get pulled in and get destroyed. But if it passes by too far, it'll just fly right past the planet. We have to be in the right place at the right time. Like a universe with many fragrant stars. Now, I'm no astrophysicist, but I doubt that's very likely to happen. But let us just assume that the gravitational pull of these two planets somehow perfectly aligns and they smash into each other. So what would happen if Earth and another action? The aftermath of these two planets smashing together would be catastrophic. All of the water on Earth would boil and turn into steam. The oceans, rivers, lakes, everything would disappear. Even the ice caps at the North and South Pole would vanish. The temperature on Earth would rise dramatically, and Earth would become a Venus-like planet. But wait, didn't Venus used to be just like Earth? Well, yes, but there was something special that happened to our sister planet that didn't happen to Earth. On Venus, a runaway greenhouse effect took place. Here's how it works. When Venus formed, it had a lot of water on it, similar to Earth. Some of the water turned into vapor and formed clouds in the atmosphere. These clouds reflected sunlight back into space and kept the planet cool. But there was also carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the clouds actually trapped some of the heat from the sun as well. This kept the surface of Venus warmer than it would have been if there were no atmosphere. But Venus was much closer to the sun than Earth is. And being closer to the sun meant that more heat was reaching the surface. As time went on, the intense heat on Venus caused the oceans to boil and turn into vapor. Then all the vapor started to trap more heat. It was a runaway greenhouse effect. The more water vapor in the atmosphere, the hotter the planet got. And the hotter the planet got, the more water vapor was created. Eventually, all of the water on Venus was gone, and the planet became a hellish world with an atmosphere that is 90 times thicker than Earth's. Now, if Earth and Gliese 1002b were to smash together, all of the water on both planets would turn into vapor. But unlike Venus, Earth is farther away from the Sun, so most of the heat from the Sun wouldn't reach the surface of the planet. So all of the water vapor in the atmosphere would start to freeze and form giant ice crystals. It would be like walking inside of a cloud. You might think that this would make Earth a bigger snowball, but it wouldn't. It turns out that the pressure at the core of Earth is immense. It's about 360 gigapascals. That's 3.6 million times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. This pressure would keep Earth from turning into a snowball. The only difference is that it would have a super thick atmosphere made of water vapor, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. There would be no oxygen though, so none of us would be able to breathe. Also, there would be no ozone layer, so everyone would get skin cancer. I guess it's a good thing that this planet isn't coming to Earth anytime soon. So now you know what would happen if Gliese 1002b came crashing down on us. But what if a different planet were to crush our planet? Well, for that, we're going to have to take a trip to another solar system. This is the TRAPPIST-1 system. It's located 40 light-years away, and there are 7 planets that orbit a red dwarf star called TRAPPIST-1. 3 of the planets lie in the habitable zone where liquid water could exist. We don't know if any of these planets have life, or if they even have an atmosphere. But if they do, let's say that one of these planets were to smash into Earth. Which one would be the most dangerous? Well, the most dangerous would be TRAPPIST-1e. That's because it's the closest planet to Earth. If it were to come crashing down on us, the gravitational force between these 2 planets would be greater than the force between Earth and Gliese 1002b. TRAPPIST-1 is slightly smaller than Earth, so when it crashed into our planet, the combined mass of the 2 planets would form a new planet that would be a bit larger than Earth. This new planet would probably have an atmosphere, but it would also have no oxygen and no ozone layer. But here's the worst part. The star TRAPPIST-1 is much smaller and dimmer than our Sun. So this new planet would receive way less sunlight. It would be an ice cube compared to the Venus that Earth would turn into. So if you were to survive the collision, you would be in for a real treat. You would get to live on a frozen rock that receives almost no sunlight. Just sounds like a great place to live, doesn't it? But it turns out that even though TRAPPIST-1e is the closest planet to Earth, it's still way too far away to affect our planet. Astronomers have calculated that the gravitational force between Earth and TRAPPIST-1 East is about 10 to the negative 12th power newtons. That's 10 times smaller than the force between Earth and the Moon. So don't worry, you can sleep soundly in your bed tonight knowing that TRAPPIST-1e is oncoming to crash into Earth. Well, unless you live near the coast, in which case you should probably be worried about rising sea levels.